All right. Welcome to the Horror Geek Dungeon, the dungeon where we geek out on all things horror, thriller, mystery, and suspense. And I am your torturer, Tom. And we have with us a very good guest. We have Ariel Powers-Schaub. Did I get that right?
Really close.
Really
It's
close.
Ariel.
Ariel.
It's okay. It's a
I
doozy of a name.
practiced this not even 40 seconds ago.
It happens to everybody. Honestly, it doesn't even bother me anymore. It's no big deal.
So, anyway, welcome to the dungeon.
Thank
Uh,
you. Thanks so much for having me.
oh, it's a pleasure. Now you're a writer, you're a
Hmm.
podcaster, fellow
Yes.
podcaster, and you're a film critic.
Yes.
And
You can find me just kind of crawling all over the internet with my horror takes.
okay, very
Hmm.
good. All right, and we're going to talk about your upcoming book, Millennial Nasties.
Yes.
It is being released in, let's see, September 17th is the
Yes.
release date. So if you're listening this in the future, um, beyond that date, yeah, it's out. It's out. What are you waiting for? Go get it. So, but let's first of all let me just read real quick a little section from the at least from the press release that I got here. Is a Millennial Nasties dissects the English language horror films of the 2000s and the cultural events they were responding to, processing tragedy and war throughout the world, keeping pace with films from other countries, and swinging wildly away from the safe horror of the 1990s. The 2000s brought grisly kills and shocking gore to cinema audiences and home viewers. Films once dismissed as torture porn, their nasty slasher friends, and the remakes of this era have found a new home, and that home is the subgenre of millennial nasties. Now, who did you come up with the name millennial nasties, or is that from
I
somebody
sure
else?
did.
Okay,
Yep, that's me. I renamed the subgenre.
okay, there we go. Yeah, if it doesn't apply to what's going on now, come up with some, yeah, apply for something else. So where did you get the now the name Millennial Nasties is
Yes.
harks at least to my memory of I believe it's in the I don't know if it's specifically in the UK, but the whole thing of
Hmm.
video nasties.
Yes. That was certainly led by the British Board of Film Classification in the 80s, primarily in the 80s. I think it started in the 70s. Um, they were labeling movies that they thought weren't suitable to be viewed as video nasties. And so even though they didn't control American audiences, that spilled over into other Western audiences of like, oh, this is a video nasty. We got to get our hands on it. This is not
Mm-mm.
supposed to be seen by anyone. So I'm definitely referencing that with my title.
Okay, that's usually the best. I would think the best marketing that you could do is because as soon as somebody hears like oh, we're not supposed to see this, or it's forbidden fruit, or
Oh
something like
yeah,
that. Oh, that's the number one thing they want
you
to
got to get
see,
right
or
on it.
watch, or
Yes.
listen to. So
Basically gave a list of recommendations to horror fans with the
really,
video nasty list. Yeah.
you never, yeah, never had to do any marketing. Just get on that list, and
Yep.
you're good to go. Uh, now, now in light of that, with talking about you mentioned torture porn, stuff
Hmm.
like that. Now, in the I believe the prologue of your book, you dive a little bit, and just kind of like set things right, set things clearly. Okay, let's all start on the same page here. We're on
Hmm.
the same understanding of what, because torture porn, I think is a bit of, I think you talked about it, but it's a bit of a misnomer,
Right.
because it's not pornographic in a sense.
Right.
But if you could just talk more on that.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I wanted to start the book with an explanation of that and where I was coming from because I want anybody to be able to read this book, whether or not you are a huge horror fan, have seen all these movies, or never heard of them. I wanted a chance for everybody to get on the same page right away in the beginning, like you said. And the first recorded use that I could find of the term torture porn was in 2006 in a review of Hostel. And it was definitely thrown out there as an insult. It was not meant to be creating a subgenre. It was certainly not meant as a compliment. It was meant to say, these films are nothing but, torture, and it's to a level that's pornographic. And I've never really felt that fit. People ask me, do I have a problem with the term torture porn? And well, not really, other than the fact that I don't think it fits. I don't really care if it's meant to be an insult or not because it doesn't take away from my enjoyment of these films, but it's just not accurate. As you said, the films aren't pornographic. They had wide cinema releases. Some of the films that get called torture porn, they're not even a focus on torture. There certainly is in Hostel, but not in a lot of the other movies that kind of get lumped under this. And it was a way of dismissing films instead of giving them attention as horror films in history and horror films that have a place in a part of our discussion. And so I wanted to take that term and say, okay, however we feel about it, let's set it aside. We need a more all-encompassing way to talk about these films because there are a lot of films that I cover in the book that were never called torture porn and wouldn't have fit that label, but also sort of didn't really have a home and just kind of floated through this nasty 2000s era, getting stepped on and dismissed by other horror fans. And so I really wanted to say, here's a way we can talk about this era, this subgenre of cinema, and encompass everybody and not use the phrase torture porn, which really doesn't fit.
Right. And I noticed, just as I was going through the book, it's very well laid out. It's very,
Thank you.
I say very, very well thought out. You're definitely shining through with the film critic role of you. So, and as I was having that in the back of the mind of the whole torture porn stuff and how dismissive that is, when I'm reading your analysis of all these different movies, like we have Saw, Hostel, Collector, and I'm just naming not all of them, just a few highlight. House of a Thousand Corpses, Final Destination, and then the remakes of Last House on the Left and Hills Have Eyes. But as you're analyzing these movies and calling out certain things have happened, the whole torture porn thing it just not only dismissive, but it, to me, when I see these movies, especially, and now that I've read the book, I have a new appreciation of just how deep some of these movies are. That it's very dismissive. That anybody who uses that term is just kind of missing the point of what some of these movies were commenting on. Let me talk about the what's going on in society at the time, what's going on around the world. And this book was actually a lot of points called out things that just flew right over my head. For example, in I think it was the Last House on the Left, I believe, and I'm trying to. I'm old, so my memory is not as good as it used to be. But I forget the name of the character. But it was right after the rape scene, and you called out her line is, "I like to swim.
Yeah.
I'm a good swimmer," or something like that. And it's like, and I vaguely remember that line, but I mean, to me, if I go back and watch that movie again without reading the book, I'm sure there would be like, okay, well, that's just a throwaway line or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But after reading what you analyzed about, okay, why did she say that? What makes that line relevant in that, especially in that point in time in her
Right.
life, what she's going through, and that just yeah, that just blew me away. It was very very educational and like an epitome or epiphany or whatever the fuck the word is.
Yeah.
So, but
No, thank you so much. That is honestly incredible to hear. I like that. Thank you so much for your kind words. I mean, I know people are going to read the book and disagree with some of my analysis, and that's great and that's fine. And like, I would love to hear other people's takes on these movies. You know, one of the reasons I wanted to write this book is because there's not enough analysis of these films that I could find. I couldn't find another book like this. And so I would love it if this book could start conversations about this era of film and what other people took away from it, whether or not they agree with me.
definitely. Now, and I swear, before I forget, you have this really cute graphic at the end of the book with the 6 degrees of separation.
Yes.
And you start out with the Saw franchise up to, I guess it was the timing of the writing, but you didn't include. Have you seen Saw X yet?
Yes, I loved
Okay.
Saw X. I wouldn't have included it in this book because I only covered films up to 2010.
Oh, that's
So
right. That's
I
right.
wouldn't have included it, but loved Saw X. Can't wait for more.
Yeah, definitely. So, yeah. So, I just want, yeah, I just wanted to ask what your analysis of Saw X was, because that seemed to be
Mm.
a
Hmm.
call back to the original, the original
Hmm.
style of the movies. I mean, I was a fan of Saw up until like I think 4 or 5, when it just got, for me, it just got too much for my brain to keep track of.
I mean, it goes places. It's definitely not for everyone. Um, I really liked Saw X. I did like the return to form. I thought it is a different feel than some of the originals because it's, most of the Saw movies are half police procedural, half traps. And this one is all traps all the time. And so I know some people found that exhausting, which is totally fair. I loved seeing more between John and Amanda. uh, we never, for as much of their backstory as we get, we actually don't see them on screen together that much outside of Saw 3.
Hmm.
And I really liked seeing their interactions. I thought the traps were really creative. I thought the setup was classic Saw. So, it had its problems too, but for me, it's one I'll definitely put in the rotation for sure.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that really stood out to me and why it's one like, I mean, to me, very few sequels and stuff, at least to me, are as good as far as my favorites outdo the original.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like when you see the very first movie, you don't know who is what and what the hell is going on where, and you just
Yes.
you're being thrust into this universe. You're just finding your steps and your bearings. But yeah, so to me, nothing could be better than the original. But the
Mm-hmm.
Saw X was like a very close second. And
Yeah.
the main reason for that is we got an antagonist that is damn near John Kramer's equal.
Yeah. And that was fun to see. That was cool to see. So
So yeah. So do you think Cecilia is still alive?
I do. Will we ever see her again? I'm not sure. But I think she made it out. I think she lived another day.
Yeah, me
Mm-hmm.
too. Someone that cunning and that vicious. Yeah, it's it's usually the most wicked people that live at the I'm
Oh, of course.
yeah I'm like one of my very favorite movies. at least for zombie, is Train to Busan. And God, how
So good.
yeah, that's one of the few movies that I tell people is like, if you could, even if you're sick and tired of zombie movies, just watch that, because
Absolutely.
that's a movie that actually made me feel something.
Oh yeah. I cried like a baby.
Oh yeah,
But it's also like properly scary too. Like
yeah,
it's got, so when you get really sick of zombies, it can be hard for them to be scary again. But Train to Busan makes zombies scary again,
yeah,
in my opinion.
yeah.
Hmm.
And it takes to the whole thing of, yeah, the we've seen the monsters, or we've seen, we've seen the monsters, and the monsters are us. So
Yeah. Oh
it
yeah.
takes care of some of the stuff there. And I'm just like shooting out of my ass here. Have you seen Zone of Interest?
No, not yet. I'm
Okay.
interested in it. I'm afraid. I'm actually sort of afraid to watch
Yeah.
that movie.
Yeah. I saw it at the theaters. There's a one movie theater here that good, lucky enough plays some of the more I don't know, unusual, weird, not weird movies, but
Hmm.
I can't think of the word I'm thinking of.
Just sort of like genre cinema.
No, it's a AMC theater,
Hmm.
um, but they play more the because they have like 24 screens or whatever, so they have room to play more the more obscure movies.
Hmm.
For example, when I saw X in the theater, I made a double feature out of it and saw When Evil Lurks at the same day.
Mm-hmm.
So
Wow, what a double feature.
yeah, yeah,
Oh my
but
God.
yeah, Zone of Interest is it really deals with the 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 banality is, if that's a word, of humans. It was like,
Hmm.
that, yeah, you gotta be paying attention to what's going on in the background, because you really don't see anything, but you hear what's going on
Mm.
over that wall. and
Yeah.
and
I
maybe,
know I'll watch it eventually. I think I need to watch it at home where I have the ability to pause it.
yeah,
Hmm.
that's one of the things that was like, because when I was in the theater, is like, I know I'm gonna miss some of this but parts of this, but it's like, this is yeah, it was not in a sense, horror, in a sense that, but it's Hollywood horror or anything, but
Hmm.
uh, just the setting and the topic matter, and that is horror in and of itself. So,
Hmm.
but anyway, yeah. So we start off on the Saw series, and go into Hostel, Collector. Um, was there any movies during the 2000s that you had some things to talk about, but due to space or anything like that, just you didn't include into the book?
There are definitely lots. I started with a really big list when I started brainstorming this book, and I had to narrow it down partially for space, like you said, but also because I didn't want to repeat myself too much. And I wanted to pick the films that I thought would help me best make my points, but not spend forever on those points. And there's so many movies that could be Millennial Nasties that didn't get included in this. And I'm sure I'm not even like remembering all of them right now. But um, somebody asked me why I didn't include the Nightmare on Elm Street remake and the Friday the 13th remake. There's also Freddy versus Jason that I think could be in there. Um, the Hills Have Eyes 2, the I Spit on Your Grave remake, Wrong Turn 3 technically could have been in there, but I didn't want to just keep going on forever without wrapping up my points. So there's definitely room for discussion of movies that could have been in this book that aren't.
Okay. Yeah, and that's one thing I've noticed that the chapters, I mean, they're not short in a sense, but it's like the economy of words that you you, you go through, and yeah, just to make the point, and yeah, state your case, provide the evidence of what why you came to that criticism or your that
Mm-hmm.
analysis, and then moved on. Um, I I like the ongoing I guess motive thing of how you sum up or end each chapter. It's sort of like a half a sentence, and the sentence just relays into the title of the next chapter. So
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, I really wanted the book to feel like a cohesive experience, and I wanted it to be an easy read and accessible. Again, because I wanted it to be able to reach people who aren't necessarily, overjoyed about these movies like I am, like I'm just gushing for them, but like for people who don't feel that way, I wanted it to be able to be like this this book is easy to read. And I thought maybe tying the chapters together, using the 6 degrees of separation infographic at the end, I thought that might help give it a little bit more accessibility.
definitely, definitely. Now, what are your thoughts on? Just kind of going off the book here. What are
Mm-hmm.
your thoughts of a lot of the movies coming out in the horror genre that are either written or directed or both by women? And are there any female directors or writers that you really like?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. It's wonderful to see women behind the scenes in horror because women love horror just as much as anybody else. And women should be allowed to be as good or bad at directing and writing as anyone else is. And so like women should be allowed to have movies that flop and women should be allowed to have movies that go absolutely bananas. So Karen Kusama is definitely a big one. She directed The Invitation and oh my God, I'm totally spacing on the other one. See, now because I wasn't ready for this question, I like don't have all the names at the front of my
That's okay.
head. But also, the most recent Slumber Party Massacre was written and directed by a woman, and that was incredible. Um, I'm thinking of a lot of the women who directed episodes of Yellow Jackets.
Okay.
That show, a lot of that is incredible. Um, Jennifer's Body, The Babadook. I there's no reason why women shouldn't be doing the same things as men in the horror genre because we love it just as much. And like me going gaga over these nasty movies of the 2000s should be as much proof of that as anything. Absolutely. There's I can't remember her name off the top of my head, but the woman who regularly edits for David Cronenberg. In an interview one time, she was asked, "What's it like to get all these nasty films sent your way?" And she said, "Well, they're not nasty until I get my hands on them." And I just absolutely love that. The gatekeeping thing, it makes me really sad. I also, on and off in my life, have been a big fan of professional wrestling as well, which is another field where people look at me and go, "You don't look like a wrestling fan." And when they say that to me, I say, "What does a wrestling fan look like?" And then they don't know what to say to that. Gatekeeping mainly just makes me really sad because horror should be for everybody. Horror is so vast that I truly believe there's horror for everybody if they want it. And I just try to, like, I don't want to prove myself to anyone. If someone wants me to prove myself to them, I don't want to give them the time of day.
Right.
And I just, like, Gail Weathers style, "Are you familiar with the phrase, I wrote the book on this," is going to be my response from now on.
Here we go. So, going back to women in horror movies. So, what was your introduction into the whole horror genre?
I
What?
don't remember a time in my life when horror wasn't there, truly. Like, I remember ghost stories when I was a little kid. I remember watching horror movies with my family. Like, I remember being scared of the pollution monster in Fern Gully and like crying but wanting to keep the movie on to see what would happen. Um, I don't remember the first horror movie I ever saw because I think it was just one of those things where it just sort of happened.
Hmm.
But like one of the most important experiences in my life was when I was 12 and I saw the Blair Witch Project in the theaters.
Uh,
And I didn't know about found footage. I didn't know about how films could cross the line between reality and pretend. And so like that absolutely broke my brain. And my whole life has a before the Blair Witch Project and after the Blair Witch
right.
Project.
That movie had some really ingenious marketing.
Mm-hmm.
To the point, it was like, yeah, this really happened. It's like, well, how come? And I remember watching TV, and I swear it's like I was watching. It was and I forget what commercial was about, but um, the woman that was the part of the trio was in this commercial, and it's like, okay, if she's dead,
What is she doing
what is she
here?
doing in the commercial? It's like,
Yeah.
how? Because it wasn't an old commercial or anything. It was like, it was
Mm-hmm.
very recent. It's like, okay. But yeah, marketing wise, it was just the whole missing persons
Mm-hmm.
T-shirt and call this number and yeah, I wish marketing was done like that nowadays, because now it's like, when you watch a quote unquote a teaser or a trailer,
Mm-hmm.
it's like they give half the damn movie away. Um,
Yeah,
and
that
like
is
the,
tough.
the the movie Ma, they gave you away the ending of the movie in the freaking poster.
Yes. Yeah.
It's like, so are there any other now, the Millennial Nasties deals with I guess the 2010.
Yeah, that decade-ish of horror around the turn of the millennium.
Okay.
Hmm.
Is there any plans of you doing other eras or other decades?
It's possible. I have a couple ideas knocking around in my head, and if I decide they're good enough ideas, I will write them up.
Okay.
Because there's, you know, the trend doesn't just change overnight. And
Right.
so even though in the 2010s we started to do a lot more slower horror with less scares on screen and like grief allegories, trauma allegories, mental health stuff, which a lot of that is incredible. It didn't just become that overnight. And so I was thinking about writing about that sort of transition era where there's still things coming out that are quite nasty alongside things that are nasty in a different way, like Get Out
Mm-hmm.
and Hereditary. Like, those are very different than Millennial Nasties, but still hugely impactful to watch. And so I've thought about kind of writing about that transition era. Um, I also noticed while I was doing research for Millennial Nasties, there are a lot of horror movies that came out in the 2000s that weren't nasty, but they were just very weird. And I kind of want to see if there's something there. I'm not sure what my point would be, but I'm like, is there something here? There's all these weird movies that came out at this time. Like, I have my Dead Silence poster behind me. Dead Silence is one
Yeah.
of those. There's a movie called I Know Who Killed Me with Lindsay Lohan, which is just a bonkers movie. There's Rest Stop and Rest Stop 2, which you think are just going to be sort of your standard slashers, but there's like supernatural elements and like a very weird family in an RV. And so I'm just kind of like, what was going on where we got these really weird films alongside these really nasty films? So I don't know. We'll see what comes of it. I want to let my first book come out first and kind of see how that goes and maybe
Okay.
write something else.
One movie I saw that I put it in, and I forget what year it came out. They're already making a remake of it, and it's only like 2 years old.
Speak No Evil.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is like, that's one of those movies that, okay, that I can only see once.
Yeah, I can understand that.
To the point is like, okay, well, I'm not saying it's a shitty movie, but
Hmm.
the fact that I could only watch it once uh, proves that it did what it set out to do, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. It's
Because
impactful.
it's like if there's, because we joke about, we yell at the screen. It's like, don't open that door, don't go in that room, don't just. But I was literally pissed off and mad by the
Hmm.
halfway through that movie. I was like, you dumbass son of a bitch. And by the end, it's
Yep.
like, you know what? You, you got what you're getting what's coming to you. I've given up on just trying to save you.
Yeah, I think that's very fair. Yeah, I'm surprised that they're already making a remake of that, but we'll see. Who knows?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's maybe, and I don't even know why, because it's the American version. Maybe that's the whole thing. Is like they don't want to. Americans don't want to watch or read subtitles, which I call bullshit on that, because Godzilla -1 was
Oof.
subtitles, and that was like a banger. Everybody was going to go see that. So yeah,
Yeah.
if you love a movie and you want to watch a movie good enough, you'll be willing to watch or read subtitles.
Hmm.
So
Yeah. Yeah. And I think horror audiences are maybe needing a break from all that heavy stuff. I think maybe we're going to go into an era of a little bit more fun again, I hope. I'm really excited for Terrifier 3 later this
yes,
year. Like, I'm kind of
yeah,
hoping that, like, that's the direction we're going in for a while, but who knows?
yeah. And by the way, a little ad in here. Go to my YouTube channel. You'll see an interview with me and David Howard Thornton.
Hmm.
Now, of course, that was recorded before Terrifier 2 even came out of the theater, so it's very dated. But hey, you get to see him voice characterizations. I threw a bunch of characters at him, and he did all these voice characterizations and imitations, so it was fun.
He's
But
incredible.
he's a fun guy. Uh, well, Ariel, did I get it right?
Close.
God damn.
Please don't worry about it. It's okay.
If people want to find out more about you, where they get where can they find you? Do you do the
Yes,
Twitter thing or Instagram, whatever?
absolutely. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd, and Blue Sky at Ari_Hellraiser. And on my Twitter and Instagram, the first pinned post has the link to my book. You can pre-order my book right now. There's hardcover, paperback, audiobook, and ebook. And there are options for international shipping too. We've
Okay.
had a couple of glitches where sometimes it says the book is sold out. That's not true. So
Okay.
if you have any trouble ordering it, just DM me and we'll get it sorted out. But yeah, you can pre-order it now through
Okay.
Encyclopocalypse.
Yes. And you'll be getting yeah. So pre-order it. If you don't get it by September 17th or 18th, yeah, reach out to Encyclopocalypse or you and find out. Hey, where's my book?
We'll
So
get it sorted out. We'll get it sorted out. Everybody gets a copy who wants one. We'll figure it out.
there we go. So Ariel, is that right? Close.
R, like a
R
pirate, like R. You
Ariel
nailed it. There you go.
Ariel. Okay. I'm gonna clip this audio and I'm gonna put it over all the other times I tried it and fucked it up. So
Incredible. Seriously, don't worry about it. I know my name is a total doozy.
well. Anyway, Ariel, thank you so much for being with. So I hope you enjoyed your time at the dungeon, and yes, looking forward to the book.
Thank
Uh,
you.
well, I'm not because I already read it. So, but everybody out there should be looking forward to the book and go check it out. Comes out September 17th, 2024. So Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.